Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Hey Man, It's Okay. Mike and I have been pretty busy, and so today we're doing an episode that we've recorded separately, but we are doing an episode about burnout. So here we go. I've come to bring you life. Last chance to put up a fight. So rise again. The end begins, and we will wage the war within. Welcome to a special episode of Hey Man, It's Okay. Our separate recordings. I'm going to talk first, and then Mike is actually going to talk after me. I have a very special guest today. He is my little brother. He's a twin, not my twin. He's 19. It's my brother, Grant. Hey, Grant.
Howdy, guys. How's it going?
Thanks for being on today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here and excited to, talk about this.
Yeah. Last night we got talking about burnout because I
Yeah.
wanted to know the difference between what you thought being 19 and me being 34. The difference in how we view burnout, how we deal with burnout. So yeah, I guess, we've been burnt out for the last couple of weeks. I took a break from social media for a bit, but now I'm feeling better. I'm feeling more positive. I'm feeling ready to get on this again. And, being the age I'm at, burnout's tough to deal with. And it's going to be different things. I've been working really hard at work. My wife's been really busy with her new job. Mm-hmm. So, I know you've felt burnout too.
Yeah, definitely. Mine was more of depression burnout because in my past few years, my parents, they had a divorce and they dealt with the divorce. And so during that transition, it was about 2 years that it took. But during that, there was a lot of stress between the family, between my mother, between my father, and the mental strain on, me, my brothers, my little siblings who had to deal with it. It was massive. And so there was a point where I just didn't want to deal with anything. And I was at a really low and I just didn't know what to do. And, I got to the point where I was having those not so great thoughts. We had woods in the back of our house. Like, we lived in the middle of nowhere. So I had those thoughts, what if I just, went to the woods and, kind of went missing. And I never thought on actually doing anything.
But you just got that thought, if something happened, I wouldn't be upset about it.
Yeah. And that's how low it was for me, at least for my burnout of depression. And yeah, that was... It wasn't great, it wasn't fun, and it was definitely not enjoyable.
Yeah, burnout's hard to deal with. When you're feeling tired and exhausted and you feel like you've got a responsibility you have to take care of, it's like trying to move mountains to get yourself motivated to do it. And that's kind of where I've been too, for the last several weeks, with my birthday coming up, and then with the anniversary of my cousin's death coming up in June. The 3 months leading up to it are pretty tough for me, but I feel like I'm finally making some positive moves, and I'm finally helping myself mentally.
Yeah, I've had a burnout for the last 2 weeks with the military and not being able to get what I need medical wise, and then my work taking forever to actually get me a letter of recommendation. And so, I've been at a point where I haven't had the motivation to do anything, find a new job, or, go out, find some new friends. And again, different types of burnouts for different people and how they experience it. It's something.
Well, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk with you about, because, our age difference, I can't do math right now. We're like 14 years apart, I think. And the difference between how I deal with burnout and how you deal with burnout, or what even causes our burnout, are going to be completely different, which is kind of why I wanted to get 15 years.
Yeah, 15 years.
Oh God. You were born when I was 15, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so weird. The last few weeks I've realized that I'm the age my parents were when I was a junior and senior in high school. So it's so bizarre to think that I'm here now and you are kind of almost where I was, because my parents and I are 17 years apart. Me and you are 15 years apart. So there's only a 2-year difference.
That is nuts. Yeah. So if I was 2 years younger, we'd be at the exact same points that you were with your parents.
Yeah. It's so weird. And it's been great having you here. Grant lives with my wife and I, and has since August. His brother was here with us. I don't know if he wants us to say his name, but he was here with us for a bit, and now he lives with our dad in a different city. But Grant's still been here, and we've been trying to figure out how to live together and trying to figure out life together. Grant, since he's been here, he's got his license, he got a job, he got a car.
Yep, I did.
So things are moving ahead pretty good. Life can get you down sometimes. It's hard to pick yourself up from that. And I know I've been a little bit harsh with you a little bit over the last couple days, but I got to tell honest truths when I see something not working.
Yeah, it's better to be given the truth than someone sugarcoats it for you.
I haven't done any TikToks. I haven't done any Instagram posts. I haven't done any podcast recording. So what happened with the podcast was the place that we were recording at, the last episode we tried to record, the computer ran out of space, and we were going to have to re-record the episode all over again. And with those technical difficulties, it's really disheartening. We had another episode where we had equipment difficulties, and we were going to have to record an episode a third time. And so having that happen to two different episodes was really disheartening. And on top of that, work has been really busy. Life has been really busy. My wife started a new job in November, and she's been working really hard on some events that they've been planning. So it's just been a lot of things changing, a lot of things happening. And so, I took a break. I just couldn't record anymore. But now here we are again. I'm ready to get back into it. Life feels like it's finally slowing down, kind of having some normalcy. So I decided today would be a great day to record an episode, or at least part of an episode.
Yeah.
Because I know Mike is going to submit his part of this about burnout after us. But it's so important to take a step back and recognize when you have burnout and realize what you need to do to take care of your mental health. And for me, it was just stepping away from social media and kind of ignoring my friends a little bit. A lot of them reached out to me, and it took me days and days to respond. And, maybe I was dealing with a little bit of depression. And that's okay. And I'm really glad that I took the steps that I needed to instead of pushing myself to do more than I thought I could mentally. Do you recognize in yourself when you feel burnt out or depressed? Or is it something that someone has to point out to you?
Oh, no, I definitely know when it happens. There's just points points where I just kind of try to ignore it, and that's not the best thing to do with that.
No.
As I've learned, because I definitely done the thing where you shut off your friends, you just don't talk to anybody because you just don't want to deal with it. This is enough. This is too much. You just kind of shut down. For me, it doesn't take till I lose all motivation in my burnout. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to, I don't want to go out. I just want to sit at home and do nothing.
Yeah, and that's not a productive way to get out of it.
No, absolutely not. It's definitely something really hard to get out of a burnout. But sometimes it takes, family or one of your friends to, say something, reach out to you to try to motivate you because, we have family, we have friends because they're supposed to be there to support us. And it's really hard to get out of burnout if you're not letting them back in.
Yeah. I think, Grant, would you be willing to kind of more introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background? Because Mike and I have done that, but I want to have my guests introduce themselves a little bit too before we get too much further into the topic.
Yeah, so again, you guys know, my name's Grant. I'm 19, and a little bit about myself. So I moved out to Washington in about August I came out here with the intention to, visit, but it turned into staying with Sky and his wife, which I'm really grateful for. But I had kind of a rougher history with my parents. My parents, they were very toxic. They were very, well, I wouldn't say exactly toxic, but in that field.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things going on.
I would say a lot of manipulation, because there were a lot of things I was told by my mother that turned out to not be true about my other side of my family, or my Burgess side of my family. I was always told, they weren't great people. They they were all mischievous and, liars, and getting to know them was definitely not that. And I went through, let's see, 1, 2, 3, at least 5 different divorces. Well, not divorces, but breakup, court stuff. So I had a really rough childhood, and so I had to grow up and mature faster, and get a sense of the world that I shouldn't have before, I was 18.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a little weird. So when you were, gosh, how old was it when you guys moved out to Maryland? Do you remember?
I was, I think, 7 or 8.
Okay. So from the time Grant was 7 or 8, I didn't talk to him again until he was about 14,
Yeah.
15-ish, I think. My dad and your mom had a really bad divorce and a bad falling out. And, you guys moved across the country, and that resulted in us not being able to talk to you. And then when you were about 13, I started reaching out to your mom to see if I could talk to you guys. And I was really grateful that after wearing her down a little bit, she finally agreed to let us be able to communicate. And I really appreciate that. I've gotten to know you since you were, 14, 15-ish, I think is one of the first times we got to talk.
Yeah.
And that was right about when I was, like, just as I married my wife, I think, was when we started reconnecting.
Yeah, I actually remember that day. I was sitting in my mother's bed, and she's like, "Hey, we have someone on the phone for you." And, you called, I guess, and answered. And I was like, "Who's that?" And she's like, "Oh, this is Skylar." Who? Who? And then she explained to us that, it's one of your brothers. And like, oh, that's right. I totally forgot that I had another side to my family.
Yeah, because it was kind of hidden, and she kind of like blocked us all away for a long time. But I told her, that's not my fault. Why am I getting punished for the sins of my father, basically? And through that, here you are living with me.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, it's been so weird going from the role of a brother to kind of like a parent-ish, because I'm trying to help motivate you for life. And it makes me think about my parents, and it makes me think about the things that they tried to help me through that I wasn't appreciative at the time, but I'm very appreciative now. But yeah, do you remember... You were like 15 and a half when you came out to visit me for the first time, right?
Yeah. We went to the Olympic Game Farms, and we had a running joke of bread.
Because my wife and I went to this like bread outlet store. It's like where this bakery puts all their extra stuff when it's getting close to the end of like expiration dates, and we bought a bunch of bread and we put it in her trunk. They saw the bread and they asked what it was for. And our joke was, if you keep asking about the bread, you're never going to find out what it's for.
And it wasn't till the day of that we were going to go to the Olympic Game Farms where, there's buffalo, wolves, and the wolves in a cage, obviously, but the buffalo are out and you can drive past them and stuff. It was definitely a fun time. But yeah, we didn't find out till that day what the bread was for. And so now it's a running joke. So whenever there's bread in the back of a trunk, I say, don't stop asking or you won't know what the bread is for. Yeah.
Yeah, and we taught you how to drive a little bit while you were here.
Yeah, and was it Challenger?
It was a Charger. It was a V8 Charger. It was a Hammer.
Yeah, you remember those mall cops?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They told us we couldn't... Okay, you guys, when you were learning to drive... Did you not go and drive in, like, the mall parking lot to figure it out? Because that's exactly what we did, because I thought that was the thing. But apparently, you're not allowed because it's private property. And I had no idea about that. But we had these mall cops that were just... They were not
One was cool.
One was cool. And the other one was just like, no, you gotta get off the property.
The one dude came up to us, and he's like, oh, I wish I could have learned how to drive in one of these things. And then, like, a minute passes as he's talking to Scott's wife, and the other guy comes up and he goes, all grouchy and grumpy, you can't be driving here because it's private property.
Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, we've stayed close and connected, and these guys, him and his brother, deal with anger issues like I dealt with growing up, and so they would call me and ask me for advice on how to deal with it, which was really cool because I learned how to deal with it over the years, and through therapy and through the support of my wife, I learned to control my anger. And I think their mom is really grateful that I was involved in that,
Yeah, definitely.
because no one understands the Bridges anger more than I do, because I've done all the research, I've done the work, and I'm finally not an angry person, I don't feel like. But I'm really grateful to have you guys in my life too, because I always wondered about you, and I always wondered if you thought about us. I always wondered if we were in your memory.
All the time. There would be times where I would see, this person in the back of my head, like, who's that? Because, I went through a period of kind of like a brainwash from my mother. Like, not being basically exiled or excommunicated, basically, from the Bridges family, and not having any communication or understanding who they were. And it wasn't until I was about 14, 15 that I started learning about them, and then I got more curious. And it wasn't till I got to Washington, moving in here, that I started having the memories. Go visiting certain people would spark those certain memories that I would remember when I was 6, 7, 8 years old.
Yeah, like a smell or a sound of someone's voice.
Yeah, so there's this thing called pan dulce. It's like a Mexican sweetbread. And I remember when I was like 5 or 6, I remember eating a bunch of it. And I went to my Nana's, and she had it.
That's our grandma.
Yeah, sorry. And I had it, and it just sparked one of the biggest memories of, like, my taste buds smell. It was the biggest, like, deja vu I've ever had.
It was a brain blast.
Yeah. And then, seeing certain people, like with some of my uncles, they were great. Getting to see them trigger those memories of that. I know who they are. Some of them by face, some of them by smell. Yeah, it's a thing. Smell.
Smell is definitely connects some strong memories, I would say. But yeah, thanks for talking about our past a little bit. I know it's really brief, but I thought it was important for the listeners to understand our history before we moved into more of the burnout topic, because we've both experienced our share of issues and manipulation and going through the toxicity and growing.
Yeah.
Seeing how you've grown since you've been here has been really cool for me. And seeing you change and seeing you absorb the knowledge and absorb the lessons is really great. And seeing how you've been dealing with burnout and dealing with, me being hard on you a little bit sometimes has been really good and rewarding for me.
I would definitely say I prefer things straight and forward than sugar-coated and, lies, because you don't learn unless, you know what the problem is.
Right.
And when people sugarcoat something for you, you're like, oh, what I do? And you don't learn, you just continue to repeat that pattern. And so having you guys, you and your wife,
being in the different environment.
Yeah, being in a different environment and stuff, teaching me these things, and you're harsh about it, but I learn.
Yeah.
You forgive and we move on, and because there's no growth if you don't learn your lesson and you get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I want to see you be better today than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
Even if it's just 0.001%, any growth is growth. And, sometimes it's going to be really hard. And I know that. Life is hard when you're 19. Life is also hard when you're 34. And it's a lesson to learn that maybe sometimes if you don't work for it or if you keep focusing on the negative, things are never going to be easy. And sometimes it's hard to focus on the positive when there's been all this negative that you've had to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. So do you want to start off with one of your burnouts? Or
Yeah. Well, I've been trying really hard to get this podcast going and to record episodes so that I can put them out regularly, and trying to do social media to promote the podcast. And I pushed myself. My wife says I have a problem with committing to too many things. So I've been trying to take a lesson from that and trying to just do what I'm capable of instead of saying yes to everybody and setting boundaries. So over the last couple weeks, I've just felt overwhelmed. So I realized that I needed to take a step back. And so that's what I did. I feel really glad that I took that break, but I'm ready to get going again, and I'm really motivated, and I think that this platform for me is going to be a great outlet. Now, I think we've been trying to like schedule our podcasts and like lay them out too much. I really like, thinking about a topic that I come up with that week and just talking and seeing what comes out, because I feel like it comes across more natural and it comes across more personable, I think, than trying to be like, okay, well, now we're going to talk about this, blah, 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 blah. Now we're going to talk about this, blah, blah. Too much structure makes things a little boring.
Yeah, I see that. I definitely understand that. Like it's like with work situations. Over a course of how many days, weeks, it's boring because it's the same thing over and over and over. That's why a lot of people like having jobs that have constantly different changing environments.
The monotony.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. And you currently work for a big employer. They're a nationwide employer. I'm not going to say the name, but you deal with a lot of crazy people.
Oh yeah, especially in the evenings when we get
people of this place.
yeah, they're definitely. It's definitely an environment that I would not suggest to other people. It's a good base job, but it's not something you want to stay at for 1, 2, 15, 5, however many years you work there, because it's a constant. It's just not a work environment you want to be in.
I think that there's nothing wrong with staying in a place like that for a long time, as long as you're moving up. If you stay in the same position for that many years, there's an issue somewhere.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. They are a company that takes forever to get anything done, especially for their employees or associates. They just don't really care.
Yeah,
it's a pain in the butt to try to move up because they're slow. And they're a nationwide employer. They have a lot of stuff to deal with, but there's points like within your own facilities that they should be focusing on, and they don't. And so it makes it really hard, and you get that burnout.
Yeah. How do you, like, in your world, what's your favorite way to overcome burnout?
Talking to people. I would definitely say talking to people helps, because you can share your emotions with others and get that understanding of experience that they've had, and it also helps when you have someone you can vent to. Sometimes therapy, that helps too, because then you express your emotions, how you're feeling, and they can help you the best they can.
I definitely suggest therapy. Yeah, talking to somebody, even if talking to somebody outside your friend group. I think a non-biased third party, I think, is important.
I think that's also another issue, though, is that it's really hard to reach out to someone you don't know.
Yeah.
Especially in my situations when I don't know anyone outside of my friend group, especially because of where I am. Moving from, Maryland, that's where all my friends are. And so I don't really have a lot of in-person friends here. And it helps a lot better when they're in person, because you can talk to them face to face.
Yeah, first of all, you didn't grow up here.
No.
You aren't involved in school anymore. You don't have a religious group you go see.
No.
So, yeah, making friends has got to be really tough.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I have some friends from my work, but that's only a couple. And, it just happens that we get along. But definitely trying to make friends, find a friend group to find, it's way harder than I thought it would be. Trying to find people, same age as me, around the same age. But a lot of things are like, there's like those apps you can get.
Yeah, like the meetup groups.
Yeah, the meetup groups. I tried to look, and it's a lot of drinking. A lot of over 21 things.
Yeah, and when you're 19, you can't go do those things.
No, you can't. And it's a pain in the butt, because you can't really meet up with people because of that, because they're going to go drink.
Yeah, it's like you're not quite an adult, but you're not a kid.
Like, hey, I could be a designated driver, but that's no fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's tough. I like to deal with burnout by just cutting myself off from the world and just interacting with people and making sure I'm taken care of and my house is taken care of and my wife is taken care of is kind of how I deal with burnout. And taking mental health days from work. I love the job I do because it allows me the freedom and gives me the hours to take mental health days off if I need. And if I feel burnout, not pushing myself, I think is really important. And I really love working. I work for government, which is great. And I enjoy my job, but sometimes I just need that extra day to recenter and refocus myself.
How would you say that you deal with burnout, like trying to get out of it? Like,
You know, I think it takes me a little bit longer to realize that I'm burnt out because I sit in my office by myself a lot because I work from home, and since November my wife works in office 3 days a week, so we don't really see each other a whole lot. So when I it takes me a while to realize that I'm feeling burnt out and feeling tired just because I don't have someone else pointing it out to me all the time like she used to. And so my to deal with burnout for me, I mean, again, like you said, associating with people. I've got a couple of friends here. They're my best friends. And then, I've got a couple of friends across the country who I talk to, but really spending time with them and just talking, having like in-depth, loving, positive conversations is how I deal with burnout. Occasionally if I feel too burnt out, I'll reach out to my therapist and tell her, hey, I'm feeling burnt out. Maybe we can have a session. And I think there's nothing wrong with that.
would you definitely either say like, going out and spending time with them, like, going to movies, going to games would help as well?
Honestly, yes, I do like going out with them to karaoke. I like going to do trivia nights with them. But really hanging out at home and just chilling with them is my favorite. That's the best way. I love home. Home is comfortable. We have a really nice back deck area, and we sit out there a lot and talk and just kind of enjoy each other's company. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't do these days because everyone's so engrossed in their electronic devices and engrossed in their video games that they don't take the time to meet their friends and loved ones in person. And for me, that's been something that's so important. So yeah, I mean, I'll just set my phone down and I won't touch it while they're here, just so that I can really focus on being present in the moment with them and be mindful about who I'm spending my time with and what I spend my time doing.
I would definitely say, yeah, the thing about video games, putting that down. I had a really hard struggle with that recently, a little bit, because I work the late shift, and so I don't get home till super super late. I just want to come home and chill, but I had to learn to I can only play so much, and so because I have people, I have to take care of myself as well. I have to sleep. I have to get up. I have responsibilities in the morning that I help deal with. And
Sunday's cleaning day.
Yeah, Sunday, especially Sundays. I gotta go bed early on Saturdays. Because I have that in the morning. Definitely disconnecting from social media, video games. A lot of my friends are online because I moved, but even though I have that, you have to take a break.
Yeah,
because they'll constantly be hey, like hop online, because it's kind of the only thing we can do with my online friends, at least, is play. A lot of them are gamers. Like, hey, hop online. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't today because I'm dealing with so and so. And that comes first because that's right. That's what's in front of me.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. Is when you feel like you can't take a break, that's when you're addicted. And I think it's important to take a step back and realize you're not addicted to something. It's just something simply to fill time.
Yeah, I would definitely say video games have done that for me recently. It's just for a time filler because I'm not motivated. I'm in the middle of a burnout. And, I just don't want to do anything.
Yeah. Which is what I'm trying to help you with.
Yeah.
I think doing this and talking about it, I think, is going to be really good for you and really important because, talking about how we all deal with this is important. I think a lot of people don't share when they're burnt out. And so we don't see it and we don't know how to deal with it. But I'm really grateful that, in this house, at least, we focus on our mental health. We focus on ways to help each other. We focus on ways to better each other. And I think that that's been really important in your growth. And I think, as we continue to live together for, whatever time it is, I think that we just need to kind of check in on each other and make sure that we're all feeling okay with how everything's going.
Yeah, I would definitely say while being here, I've definitely had a lot of growth.
Yeah.
Compared to where my immature self when I got here to now.
Yeah. For me, I think one of the stepping stones for you was being able to focus on yourself and not having a girlfriend to focus on.
Yeah.
But by the way, ladies, he is single now.
Why?
I mean, I don't know, but maybe they like your voice.
I mean, it's monotone.
Will there be fans of Grant?
That would be funny. Oh wow, yikes!
Yeah. Anyway, I think that pretty much covers that topic for today. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I don't really have anything to add. I think we spoke pretty well about it in a very broad spectrum.
I want to encourage the listeners. Make sure you're not burnt out. Make sure you take a step back and assess your mental health and assess where you're at mentally, physically, emotionally. Really take advantage of those around you who are working on being better.
Yeah, I would definitely say, give yourself at least like 10, 15 minutes a day to yourself to, take a step back and look at where you're at during the day and make sure that, you're okay.
Meditate, be mindful, stuff like that. Well, I guess that brings us up to Mike. We're going to take a short break. Here's a message from our sponsors. And until next time, everybody, it's okay to not be okay. Thanks for listening. When I lost my cousin to suicide and went to a dark place, I didn't know where to turn. I was struggling to cope with grief and was consumed by negative thoughts. That's when my wife suggested that I try therapy. At first I was hesitant because I didn't want to open up to a stranger and admit my struggles, but eventually I gave it a chance and it changed my life forever. Through therapy, I learned to be more mindful and present in the moment. I discovered new coping strategies for my anxiety and depression, and I developed a deeper understanding of my own mental health. With the help of my therapist, I learned to care better for myself mentally, and that has made all the difference in my life. If you're struggling with your own mental health, I encourage you to give therapy a chance. It can be difficult to take the first step, but it's worth it. And if you're not sure where to start, I recommend checking out BetterHelp. That's HELP, the sponsor of this episode of Hey Man, It's Okay. They offer convenient and affordable online therapy with licensed professionals who can help you navigate life's challenges. So take it from me, therapy can be life-changing. Visit betterhelp.com/heymanitsokay to get started. And as a listener of this podcast, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy. That's BetterHelp, spelled HELP.com/heymanitsokay for 10% off your first month of therapy. Remember, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help.
Hello, everyone. It's me, Mike, co-host of Hey Man, It's Okay. I'm not sure if Sky introduced me, but I decided I'd introduce myself regardless. I do have to say this is kind of an interesting topic that we have. I'm not sure exactly what Sky has talked about because we decided to record this, separate and remotely and solo, but that said, I did ask him if it would be okay if I recorded something for this episode because one thing that we are going to talk about is burnout, and having experienced it on multiple occasions, I have a few things that I'd like to say about it because it's frustrating and it's disheartening. And all I got to say is it's at a point where I don't blame Sky. In fact, one thing that we've both talked about is no one's at blame here. And it's very important that he and I both know that, and we've communicated that multiple times. I don't blame him for what's happened. I felt bad, honestly. There's a lot of times where I wish there's more I could do to help alleviate the situation, just because, I see it and I hear it in his voice, just how frustrated he is at the situation, because nothing hurts worse than getting through an episode, because we've had about 3 failed recordings, and they were pretty good. At least 2 of them were. I know we wanted to do relationships, and we had to do a double take on that one. Both failed horribly due to technical issues. Well, the first time was just, it was really difficult to edit, which I can understand, and I'll get to that in a second. But the second time was due to microphone issues, mainly on my side of things. But that said, it didn't make for a good podcast episode. It would have been too distracting for you guys out there. We decided to move on from that to doing Enneagrams. That was an episode, and I remember there was some sort of memory issue, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure Sky talked about it more, and I know he was so frustrated about that, and I felt so bad because, there's not much I can do about that. And again, not putting blame on anybody for that. It's just the episodes came out so good. They were great, honestly. And it's a shame that we don't have any way to, get that out to you guys, because it would have been fantastic. I think it would have been very insightful. It would have had there was a lot of deep thinking into it, and we just kind of play off each other. And I think that's why we're pretty good co-hosts for doing these episodes. That said, I completely understand where he's coming from. It's definitely the type of situation where you want to flip the table over and say, I'm done, I'm out. Or at least in the moment, that's how it feels. Just because you can't use that progress, or whatever we did is null and void. It doesn't count. So because of that, it's kind of put things in a really weird and awkward place. And to Sky's credit, I'm glad that he decided to do this, just because it's a way for us to get something out to you guys and explain the situation, so you don't think that, we're abandoning this project, we're abandoning the podcast, because that's not it at all. Honestly, I've been trying to talk to Sky to ask how he's feeling, and I don't want to push him too hard, because that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to make this feel like a chore. It's coming from a place of passion and concern and care. There's a lot of empathy going on here, and the last thing I want to do is turn it around and make it feel like, oh, we gotta do a podcast. Oh, we gotta go record something. We have a schedule and we gotta stick to it. Otherwise we're gonna start losing listeners and stuff like that. That's not what it's about. Firstmost, it's got to be that we want to do it. Secondly, you should enjoy it. And thirdly, when it starts becoming a chore, I think that's when you got to say, we need to take a break, or we need to reevaluate things. So the reason why I wanted to give my 2 cents in on this topic is because I had, or I guess technically I still have, a YouTube channel where I would do Let's Plays. For those who are unaware, a Let's Play is video game footage with commentary over it. It's kind of archaic. Nowadays, I believe you have streamers, which are people who do live gameplay footage with live commentary. Sometimes you'll have a window where they show themselves, or you have a virtual version to imitate them speaking and what have you. It's not important. Point is, I would run my own channel, and I've had technical issues. I've had times where my mic would start acting up. I've had issues where the recording would stop. Basically, I would lose progress, and it would get super frustrating and disheartening. There were days where I would have to do a lot of editing in parts. I remember that specifically because there were times when I would be like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I completely understand when Sky would come to me talking about he wouldn't want to edit. I'd be like, I know exactly what you mean. I've been there myself. There's been times where it's like one day you're just super passionate and you're just like, oh man, I'm starting a new game. I can't wait to get into it. I can't wait to go over all these parts. You're remembering a lot of things where it's like, oh, I can't wait to get to this and talk about it. Give my own 2 cents getting to this part, and then you get to, and the commentary just doesn't turn out great, or it's like, man, I didn't have a lot to say there, and I had to do a lot of retakes. And I bring this up because even doing this whole little take for the podcast, I've had to do a few retakes myself just because I'm like, nah, I don't have a lot to say here. It's like, man, get to the next point. So, there's sort of this stress on trying to have a certain quality with things. And I get it. And I don't blame Sky at all. In fact, if anything, it's just like, oh man, Sky's become this old reflection of myself. So I see a lot of like my past within himself going through a lot of these things. And I really empathize and relate to his plight a lot of times. And if anything, I hope that he kind of understands that I do know and I do understand. But more importantly, I want you viewers to also kind of get that there's a lot of work that goes into production, and there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes and that's why things might be in kind of a weird state at the moment. But, we're still talking, we're still working through it. Part of it is just trying to move forward and trying to, get back on track. Some of it's going to be a bit slower, and some of it's going to kind of be a work around or like working towards trying to get that flow back, because that can kind of get a little messed up, especially in a rough state like it is right now. I know with recording, a lot of times it would kind of be like maybe you have a bad part out of like every few parts, just because it's like it was a very like not a lot happened, or there's a lot of things that need to be edited, or is just kind of like, man, I wish I was a little bit more enthusiastic. And that's another thing. If you're not feeling it, it's going to be picked up in the recording, and that can get very disheartening when you're going to the editing phase where you're just like, man, everything just turned out garbage. And it can hit the self-esteem, and that's just not good for anybody. But more importantly, when it comes to trying to have things done at a set pace, it can be very hard on the self-esteem, just because when you don't reach a set schedule, or like you don't hit a set points, it feels like you're letting yourself down. You're not really letting anybody else down, although you might be, but I think at the end of the day, it really does a number, not just on being disheartening and frustrating, but it's also just, you feel like you failed yourself, and that can be problematic too. That's something I've noticed when doing a lot of parts in the past. Just, I wanted to hit a scheduled pace. I wanted to make sure things were done in a certain way, and I know sometimes it would be very much on schedule and things would be very good, but other times it was problematic, especially when it came to editing. Things would feel like a chore. It would all kind of tie together and just become this big ball of I don't really want to do it. I just want to give up, or I want to take breaks. And the problem with that is, I know sometimes I would shook things off until I'd forget about it, and then I'd be like, oh crap, I need to get back into very much kind of a procrastinating mindset. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. So, if anything else, thank you for listening, and thank you, Sky. Love you, buddy. Hope you're doing all right, and take it easy. Talk to me sometime soon.
Hey, Mike, why do you think we're friends?
In an ideal world, what would the next year of your life look like?
When someone asks you what you're thinking about and you say nothing, what are you actually thinking about?
In what ways do you sabotage yourself?
With Let's Get Real, Bro, a brand new card game for guys to connect, dig deep, and get real, you can ask these questions to your friends and many more. I know Mike and I have really enjoyed playing this game. Go to our website, heymanitsokay.com, scroll to the bottom and click the link to get your very own copy of Let's Get Real, Bro.
You've activated my nudge card. I love you, man.
Love you too, buddy. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hey Man, It's Okay. We are hoping to have more episodes out to you more often now that we have a few recorded, so thanks for your patience and thanks for sticking with us during this time of growth and discovery. Make sure to check out our website, heymanitsokay.com, to view our sponsors, to see our release schedule, and to sign up for alerts. So until the next episode, remember, it's okay to not be okay, and we'll talk to you then.
That's why